Good morning from a cold, dark day in November 2023. Got a bit of cold, as you'll probably be able to tell from my voice. But early morning, good opportunity just to share an account, historic account. We're going to go back to November the 30th, 2013. And it's quite an encounter, and it's one that I'm hoping I can follow up in next, I don't know, few weeks or months. I really need to catch up with at least one of these witnesses. And I spoke to them probably 3 years ago at length. He allowed me to record him. We changed a few details to mask his identity due to his job at the time. But that job's changed now, so things could have changed. I might be in a position to offer even more proof. We haven't got proof of what these people have actually seen and experienced to put out to you guys in the form of a video of an object or some kind of animal, because it won't be unexplained phenomena if every time somebody told us a story, we gave the proof out, because it's just not there. There's a firewall that's kind of blocking the phenomena, or blocking us from getting any closer. That's why we've just got to kick all these ideas about. So, incredible cliff-top encounter at Flamborough Head, November 30th, and we said 2013. Specifically, Thornwick Bay. So, there'll be some people familiar with this. If you're not, just Google the area. Very remote in winter, and there's a steel security cabin and there's a porter cabin, and there's two men working security looking after equipment, and there's a bit of a geological survey taking place. And what happened to these men in early hours of the morning has never left them. I doubt it ever will. It's one of those things that, although you probably don't wake up thinking about it, it'll be on your mind quite often. So they're employed early hours of the morning, not expecting any bother. It's not like they're in some town where people are pouring out after being in bars, and some people are just looking for a bit of bother. This just came to them quite unexpectedly. So one of the porter cabins, as we've said, full of expensive equipment. They're in a smaller one, big glass window on side, just looking out onto nothing, looking out onto the North Sea, to be quite honest. And approximately 2 a.m. in the morning, they both became aware of an unusual sound. I couldn't identify it. Didn't sound like the siren of a car alarm. Didn't sound like anything they were familiar with. It really, really strange. And they focused on it for quite a while, trying to obviously decipher what it could be. Now, before we jump into the sound in a little bit more detail, I think, after listening to them talking about it, that they were experiencing infrasound. This is the sound that is below human hearing, below 20 hertz. So I can hear people immediately jumping on board saying, well, how come they could hear it? In certain conditions, it can be heard. In scientific conditions, they can set things up so you can hear it. I'm not saying that's what was taking place, but I believe that they were experiencing infrasound. Why do I believe that? Because what accompanied the sound was extreme fear. It came from nowhere. They don't really know where this fear came from. Very cold in here, people. It's nice to have a warm drink. And they're both frightened. There's no structured craft. There's no people outside. There's nothing to explain the fear that they felt. And they began to feel confused as well. So a few minutes passed and the tension's building. This sound arrived and just slowly built. Not built in volume, just built within the men, if that makes sense. The fear that they felt was different to anything they'd felt before. And remember, these guys worked security. to say that they were both terrified and apprehensive, wondering what was going to happen next, would be an understatement. Let's stay with the sound for a moment before we jump into the actual encounter. Oh, I don't know how you'd describe it. How do you describe these things? So the sound did not amplify in volume. It impacted on their physical bodies or their physicality. And it had a strange effect on their internal organs. And they attempted to explain that their internal organs became separated, or that's what it felt like inside their body. They could feel the heart, feel the liver and the kidneys, or that's what they perceived they were feeling. Everything seemed to be vibrating inside of their bodies, and it were absolutely terrifying for these men. 61 now, people. So, as if they've not got enough to contend with this unusual sound that creates more of a feeling than it does an audible explosion in your head, said suddenly a light penetrated the window, and it didn't just come on. Both men said the light seemed to pour into the cabin. Have we ever heard of light pouring into a cabin? I've seen mist on cliff tops, literally pouring down the cliff tops. I've seen a sea fret as it comes in from North Sea, come like a wall across the land. But this is light at 2 a.m. in the morning, and they said it poured into the cabin. And so they've got all this going on, the sound, the strange feelings inside their bodies, and now this strange, almost it's monochrome light, yeah, because everything looked sort of white and distinct inside cabin, almost chrome. It was so bright inside the cabin at one point that they said they could hardly see each other. So what effects were causing that? And this only lasted 5 or 6 minutes. And in this 5 or 6 minutes, the men are terrified. Even their voices seemed distant from each other when they're trying to talk about what they were seeing and experiencing. So eventually 5 or 6 minutes passed, and the light that poured in seemed to retract, be disappearing, dissipating. They became aware then that there's something glowing outside of the cabin, very close to the cabin. And it was huge. Whatever it was really close to the cabin. We're talking 5 or 6 foot away from the window. And they could both clearly see a blue shape, huge blue shape that they estimated to be 20 foot high, 40 foot round, 6 foot away from the cabin. They've just gone through all this mental, emotional, physical trauma that they've felt from this sound. And now there's an unidentified object outside of the cabin. This is Thornick Bay, November 2013. A landed object. Could it have been man-made? Could it have been military? I suppose we can't rule that out. You know, I mean, as researchers, as interested parties, you know, every box has to be ticked, and we cannot say that it weren't, because we've not got any more proof than what these men are telling me. At this point, both men were terrified, kind of stood apprehensive, wondering what's going to happen next. They couldn't believe what they were seeing, genuinely believing that they were seeing something from another world. They still do. It is kind of hard to try and get your head around what else this could have been, I must admit. So moments later, it says there's an incredible, almost electrical flash. It's, well, not almost, it seemed electrical. Mighty flash, like an electrical explosion, in his words. And the blue light vanished. Didn't fly away, it just vanished. Some time passed. They'd not got the courage to step outside straight away, so they just sort of, I don't know, spoke to each other, tried to digest what they'd just seen, what they'd just experienced, but eventually they stepped outside, trying to understand things, as we all do. They can't believe it's just happened. So they start doing the logical then. They start searching on the ground, and they're on edge of cliffs, remember, so what they're looking for ain't going to be there. And they're looking for any cables, underground cables that could have exploded, or anything that could have caused such a violent reaction. With the explosion of light, they had no explanation for the sound. There was nothing. It just looked like a normal light once again. So they just sort of, whatever it was, had just stepped in and caused chaos and stepped out or left and just left nothing in its wake. No proof, no evidence apart from these men's words. Something from another world. Yeah, without a doubt. Absolutely incredible. I've no explanation for what they saw on the cliff tops. Sometimes I've asked the question in live streams, to the guests, have you ever been told anything that you really can't speak about because you would, I don't know, you definitely break the law, but you'd also incriminate other people? Well, connecting to this, and I'm not telling anybody anything, I have been told something, yeah. And there might come a time when I can explain in more detail what it is I've been told. But for the moment, I'll leave it at that. So that's interesting. 2013 and this incredible object. Oh, I need to add, the object was also seen on the CCTV of the nearby holiday camp. 2013, people. We know the exact dates that this occurred because social media, Facebook, he actually wrote about it on his social media. And the words that he used was, I think we've just witnessed something from another world. So you can see it made an impact on them. What was it? I don't think we'll ever know. A few additional points of interest, but not related to this UFO event. And I think we've got to call this a UFO event. I'm just bringing them up because it's a kind of a quirky coincidence. And I'm not saying any of these things are related to the UFO incident on the cliff tops in November. But if we jump forward a few weeks to December 2013, 3 men vanished from the cliff tops. Am I saying that somehow some UFO activity were responsible? No. I'm just saying it's strange. These men have never been seen since. They just vanished out of sight. And if we want to jump back to 2004, on the exact date, November the 30th, 2004, a man vanished from the cliff tops. Just strange anomalies that occurred within the time zones, within the same dates. Are they connected? No, I've no proof to say any are connected. I just think it's unusual that a combination of strangeness is taking place around this area. So we'll end it there with the 2013 UFO and the blue light. And don't forget, if you like what we're doing, if you like the live streams, please like and subscribe. And we'll see you soon. Take care. Thank you.